My name is Jessica Miller, and until recently, my life felt pretty average. At 27, I worked as a librarian in our small town, surrounded by the comforting smell of old books and the quiet rustle of turning pages. I loved my job, even if it wasn't exactly glamorous. My sister, Amy, on the other hand, was the star of the family. Beautiful, ambitious, and successful in her high-powered marketing career, she always seemed to shine a little brighter. Growing up, I often felt like I was living in her shadow. It wasn't that my parents didn't love me, it was just that Amy always seemed to effortlessly excel at everything she did. I was content with my quiet life, but sometimes I couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy. Our family gatherings were always a mix of warmth and underlying tension. The air would be filled with laughter and stories, but there was always a subtle undercurrent of competition, especially between Amy and me. I knew my parents were proud of both of us, but it was clear that they admired Amy's drive and ambition. Little did I know, this dynamic was about to explode in the most unexpected way. The day started like any other Sunday. We were all gathered at my parents' house for our usual family dinner. The aroma of Mom's famous pot roast filled the air, a comforting scent that usually calmed my nerves. But today, a strange energy crackled in the atmosphere. My parents kept exchanging secretive glances, and Amy was practically glowing with excitement. I couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. After dinner, Dad cleared his throat, a signal that he had something important to say. "Amy," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "your mother and I have decided to give you an inheritance." My heart skipped a beat. An inheritance? At this age? Amy beamed, but I felt a knot forming in my stomach. Dad continued, "We know how hard you've worked, and we want to give you a head start. We're giving you $5 million. The room fell silent. $5 million. It was an unbelievable amount of money. Amy squealed with delight, throwing her arms around my parents. I sat frozen, the pot roast suddenly heavy in my stomach. The unspoken question hung in the air, what about me? A million thoughts raced through my head, none of them particularly pleasant. Was I not deserving? Had I not worked hard enough? Did my parents see my passion for books and helping others as somehow less valuable than Amy's corporate success? I forced a smile, trying to appear happy for my sister, but inside, a storm was brewing. "That's wonderful, Amy," I managed to say, my voice sounding strained even to my own ears. "Congratulations." My parents beamed at Amy, showering her with praise. "You've always been such a go-getter, honey," Mom said, patting Amy's hand. "We knew you'd do great things with it." Dad nodded in agreement. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart. You've always been so responsible and driven." Their words stung. It felt like they were subtly highlighting my perceived shortcomings, reinforcing the idea that I was somehow less capable, less worthy. I wanted to disappear, to shrink into the floral wallpaper and become invisible. The joy of the family dinner had vanished, replaced by a heavy cloud of disappointment and resentment. I excused myself, claiming a sudden headache, and retreated to the back porch, seeking solace in the cool evening air. The porch swing creaked rhythmically as I rocked back and forth, trying to calm my racing thoughts. The crickets chirped their evening song, a sound that usually brought me peace, but tonight, it only amplified my unease. Why Amy? Why not me? Was I not their daughter, too? I replayed the scene in my head, dissecting every word, every glance. Their praise of Amy felt like a direct jab at my life choices. A librarian. It wasn't exactly the path to riches, but it was a path I loved. I found joy in connecting people with stories, in fostering a love of reading in children. Was that not valuable? The injustice of it all burned within me. I felt like a forgotten character in my own family's story, relegated to the sidelines while Amy took center stage. Tears welled up in my eyes, blurring the twilight landscape. I was so lost in my thoughts that I almost didn't notice Grandpa shuffling onto the porch. He moved slowly these days, his steps measured and deliberate, but his eyes still held a spark of mischief. He sat down beside me on the swing, his presence a comforting weight. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, Dad's voice boomed from inside. "Jessica. Come inside, dear. We want to take a family picture to celebrate Amy's good fortune," Dad called. I sighed, knowing I couldn't avoid them forever. Grandpa squeezed my hand reassuringly. "Go on," he whispered. "I'll be right behind you." I reluctantly stood up and headed back into the house, bracing myself for more forced smiles and awkward congratulations. As I stepped into the dining room, I saw everyone gathered, posing for the picture. Amy was radiant, her arm draped around Mom's shoulder, while Dad stood proudly beside her. I tried to force a smile as I took my place beside Grandpa, who had followed me inside. Just as Dad was about to snap the photo, Grandpa raised his hand, silencing the room. A hush fell over us as everyone turned to look at him, confused. He stood tall, his eyes twinkling with a mischievous glint. "Wait just a minute," he said, his voice surprisingly strong. "There's something I need to say." The suspense was palpable. What could Grandpa possibly have to say that would interrupt this carefully orchestrated moment of celebration? He paused, looking directly at my parents, then turned his gaze to me. "I have something to confess," he announced, his voice resonating with unexpected authority. "A few years ago, I secretly gave Jessica a gift. A gift of $10 million. The room erupted in chaos. Amy gasped, her face turning crimson. My parents stared at Grandpa in disbelief, their mouths agape. I stood frozen, completely stunned. $10 million? Secretly? It was impossible. I had no idea what he was talking about. "What are you saying, Dad?" my father stammered, his voice barely a whisper. $10 million? To Jessica? Grandpa nodded, his eyes fixed on me. "That's right. I knew Jessica would use it wisely, to make a real difference in the world. And I didn't want her to be swayed by anyone else's opinions or expectations." The air crackled with tension. Amy's carefully constructed facade crumbled, revealing a mixture of anger and betrayal. My parents looked utterly bewildered, their carefully planned moment of celebration completely derailed. All eyes were on me, the quiet librarian who had suddenly become the center of a million-dollar mystery. The world tilted on its axis. "That's not fair!" Amy shrieked, her voice laced with fury. "How could you do that, Grandpa? I've worked so hard for everything I have. Jessica just sits around reading books all day." Tears streamed down her face as she pointed an accusing finger at me. "And you? You knew about this, didn't you? You were just pretending to be all innocent and surprised." I shook my head, my voice trembling. "Amy, I swear, I had no idea. Grandpa never told me anything." "Liar," she screamed. "You're always trying to one-up me. You probably manipulated him somehow, played on his sympathy." My parents stood by, stunned into silence, as Amy's anger reached a fever pitch. She paced back and forth, ranting about the injustice of it all, the unfairness of life. Her carefully constructed image of composure had completely shattered, revealing a raw, unfiltered rage. "I deserve that money," she cried. "I'm the one who's going to make something of herself. Jessica will just waste it on books and cats." Grandpa remained calm, his gaze unwavering. "Amy," he said softly, "money isn't everything. It's about what you do with it, how you use it to make the world a better place." But his words seemed to fall on deaf ears. Amy was consumed by her own sense of injustice, blinded by her anger and resentment. The family dinner had devolved into a full-blown meltdown. The scene dissolved, shifting back a few years. I was in my early 20s, still finding my way in the world. Grandpa had called me over for tea, something he did often. He always enjoyed my company, and I cherished our conversations. But this time, there was a different air about him, a sense of gravity in his eyes. "Jessica, my dear," he began, his voice softer than usual, "I've been watching you. I see the kindness in your heart, the way you care for others, the passion you have for your work." He paused, taking a sip of his tea. "I also see how you're often overlooked, how your parents favor Amy's ambition. I wanted to do something to help you, to give you a chance to pursue your dreams without worrying about money." He explained that he had set up a trust fund for me, a substantial sum that would allow me to live comfortably and pursue my passions. He insisted on keeping it a secret, fearing that it would create jealousy and resentment within the family. He knew Amy's competitive nature, and he didn't want to fuel a rivalry between us. He also wanted me to develop my own sense of self-worth, independent of financial success. He believed I had a good heart, and he wanted to protect it. "Use it wisely, Jessica," he'd said, "and always remember to be kind." Grandpa's wealth wasn't inherited, he built it from the ground up. He started with nothing, a small farm passed down through generations. But he had a sharp mind and an unwavering work ethic. He diversified, investing in local businesses, always with a keen eye for opportunity. He believed in hard work, honesty, and treating people fairly. He never flaunted his wealth. He lived modestly, content with simple pleasures. He always emphasized the importance of family, community, and giving back. He volunteered at the local soup kitchen, mentored young entrepreneurs, and quietly supported numerous charities. He instilled in us the value of education, compassion, and integrity. His fortune wasn't just about money, it was a testament to his character. He believed that true wealth lay in the relationships we built, the contributions we made, and the lives we touched. He often said, "Leave the world a little better than you found it." That was his guiding principle, and he lived by it every day. He wanted to ensure his legacy reflected those values, even in how his wealth was distributed. He believed Jessica embodied those principles more closely. Back in the present, the tension in the room was thicker than ever. Amy was still fuming, my parents were speechless, and I was reeling from the shock of Grandpa's revelation. But he wasn't finished. "And that's not all," Grandpa announced, his voice firm. "I've decided to update my will. As of today, Jessica will be the sole heir to my remaining fortune." A collective gasp filled the room. This was beyond anything anyone could have imagined. Amy's face contorted with rage, while my parents looked utterly devastated. The room felt like it was spinning. "Dad, you can't be serious," my father finally exclaimed, his voice filled with disbelief. "You're going to leave everything to Jessica? What about Amy? What about us?" Grandpa stood his ground, his eyes unwavering. "I've made my decision," he said, his voice leaving no room for argument. "I believe Jessica will use my wealth responsibly and continue to uphold the values I hold dear." The room fell silent once more, the weight of Grandpa's words hanging heavy in the air. The inheritance drama had reached a new level, escalating the conflict to unimaginable heights. The carefully constructed facade of family harmony had completely shattered, revealing the raw, ugly truth beneath. "But Dad, why?" Mom finally spoke, her voice trembling with a mixture of shock and disappointment. "We always thought. We assumed you would divide it equally." Dad chimed in, his voice laced with resentment. "We've always tried to provide for both of our daughters. This feels like a slap in the face." Their words revealed their underlying biases, their belief that wealth should be distributed based on perceived success and ambition. They had always favored Amy's drive and accomplishments, subtly implying that my quiet life as a librarian was somehow less worthy. "It's my money," Grandpa said, his voice firm but gentle. "And I have the right to decide how it's used. I love both of my granddaughters, but I believe Jessica will honor my values and use this gift to make a positive impact on the world." My parents exchanged a look of disbelief, their faces etched with disappointment. Their carefully laid plans had been completely upended. The inheritance they had envisioned for Amy, the financial security they had hoped to provide, had vanished in an instant. Their reaction exposed their own motivations, their desire for their daughters to achieve worldly success and their disappointment that I had chosen a different path. It was a painful revelation, one that deepened the already gaping chasm within our family. The inheritance drama acted as a catalyst, unearthing long-buried family secrets and resentments that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. My parents' disappointment in my career choices stemmed from their own unfulfilled ambitions. They had always dreamed of achieving great wealth and success, but life had taken them down a different path. They saw Amy as a reflection of what they could have been, and my contentment with a simpler life was a constant reminder of their own perceived failures. Amy's anger, it turned out, wasn't just about the money. It was about a lifetime of feeling like she had to constantly prove herself, to earn her parents' approval. She felt pressured to excel, to achieve, to be the perfect daughter. She resented me for seemingly effortlessly earning Grandpa's affection and support, while she had to constantly strive for validation. Even Grandpa had his secrets. It came out that he had secretly helped my father start his business years ago, a fact that had been kept hidden from my mother. The revelation sparked a new wave of conflict, as my mother felt betrayed and overlooked. The inheritance had become a Pandora's box, unleashing a torrent of emotions and hidden truths that threatened to tear our family apart. The comfortable facade of family harmony had shattered, revealing the messy, complicated reality beneath. I felt like I was drowning. The inheritance, which should have been a blessing, had become a curse. It had torn my family apart, exposing raw emotions and long-held resentments. I was now caught in the middle, grappling with the weight of responsibility and the guilt of being the chosen one. The money felt tainted, like it was covered in the tears and anger of my family. I couldn't enjoy it, couldn't even think about how to use it without feeling a pang of guilt. My relationship with Amy was shattered. She refused to speak to me, her eyes filled with a cold, hard resentment whenever we crossed paths. My parents were distant and strained, their disappointment palpable. I felt isolated and alone, burdened by a secret I never asked for. I longed for the days when my life was simple, when my biggest worry was finding the perfect book for a patron at the library. Now, I was facing a complex web of family dynamics, financial responsibilities, and moral dilemmas. The inheritance had transformed me from Jessica Miller, the quiet librarian, into Jessica Miller, the reluctant heiress, a role I was ill-equipped to play. The pressure was immense, and I didn't know where to turn. Despite the icy silence between us, I knew I had to try to talk to Amy. I couldn't bear the thought of losing my sister, of allowing money to destroy our bond. I found her at her apartment, surrounded by stacks of paperwork and the glow of multiple computer screens. She looked exhausted and stressed. "Amy, can we please talk?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She glared at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of anger and pain. "What do you want, Jessica? Here to gloat?" "No, Amy, of course not," I said, my heart aching. "I just want to explain. I didn't know about any of this. Grandpa never told me. I swear." I tried to explain how shocked and overwhelmed I was, how much I valued our relationship, how much I hated the way things had turned out. I told her that I didn't want the money to come between us, that I would do anything to fix things. "It's not just about the money, Jessica," she cried, her voice cracking. "It's about everything. It's about how you've always been the favorite, how you've always gotten everything so easily." I tried to interrupt, to defend myself, but she wouldn't let me. She was too consumed by her own pain, too blinded by her resentment to hear anything I had to say. "Just leave, Jessica," Amy said, her voice cold and dismissive. "I don't want to talk to you. I don't want anything to do with you." I pleaded with her, begged her to reconsider, but she remained unmoved. Her resentment had hardened into a wall, impenetrable and unforgiving. It was clear that she wasn't ready to forgive me, perhaps not ever. Defeated and heartbroken, I turned and walked away, tears streaming down my face. The rift between us felt insurmountable, a gaping chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. I had tried my best, but it wasn't enough. Amy's anger was too deeply rooted, her pain too profound. The weight of the inheritance pressed down on me, crushing my spirit. It had not only failed to bring happiness but had also destroyed the most important relationship in my life. I wondered if things would ever be the same again, if our family could ever heal from this devastating blow. The future seemed bleak and uncertain, filled with the lingering bitterness of resentment and the crushing weight of loss. I felt utterly helpless, trapped in a situation I had no control over. The hope for reconciliation seemed to fade with each step I took away from Amy's apartment. Feeling lost and dejected, I sought solace in Grandpa's wisdom. He was the only one who seemed to understand the burden I was carrying. I found him sitting in his favorite armchair, a worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird resting on his lap. "Grandpa," I said, my voice choked with emotion, "I don't know what to do. Amy hates me, my parents are disappointed, and I feel like I've ruined everything." He reached out and took my hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "Jessica, my dear," he said gently, "this is a difficult situation, but you must remember the importance of family. Blood is thicker than water, and even though things are strained right now, you can't give up on them." He emphasized that forgiveness was key, both for Amy and for myself. "Resentment is a heavy burden to carry," he said. "It will only poison your heart and prevent you from moving forward. You may not be able to change Amy's feelings, but you can choose to forgive her and let go of the anger." He reminded me of the values he had instilled in me, the importance of kindness, compassion, and using my resources to make a positive impact. "The money is just a tool, Jessica," he said. "It's what you do with it that matters. Use it to help others, to make a difference in the world, and to honor the values that are important to you." He urged me to be patient and to trust that, in time, things would eventually heal. Grandpa's words resonated deeply within me, giving me a sense of clarity and purpose. I decided that I wouldn't let the inheritance destroy my family. I would honor Grandpa's wishes and use the money to make a positive impact on the world, while also striving to repair the fractured relationships with my parents and sister. First, I resolved to use a significant portion of the inheritance to support literacy programs in underserved communities. I would establish a foundation to provide books, educational resources, and tutoring services to children who needed them most. It was a way to honor my passion for reading and make a tangible difference in the lives of others. Second, I decided to reach out to my parents, to try to understand their disappointment and to bridge the gap that had formed between us. I would explain my plans for the inheritance and reassure them that I wasn't going to squander it. I would also make an effort to acknowledge their feelings and to show them that I valued their opinions. As for Amy, I knew it would take time and patience to rebuild our relationship. I would continue to reach out to her, to show her that I cared, and to demonstrate that I wasn't the enemy. I couldn't force her to forgive me, but I could create an opening for reconciliation, a pathway for healing. My journey wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to honor Grandpa's legacy and to restore peace within my family. As a first step towards reconciliation, I decided to make a significant gesture of goodwill. I knew that my parents had been struggling financially, burdened by the weight of medical bills and mounting debt. Without telling them where the money came from, I anonymously paid off their mortgage. The relief on their faces was palpable. They were overwhelmed with gratitude, their eyes filled with tears of joy. They had been living under a cloud of financial stress for years, and suddenly, that burden had been lifted. They couldn't stop thanking the anonymous benefactor, marveling at the kindness of strangers. I watched them from afar, my heart aching with a mixture of happiness and guilt. I longed to tell them the truth, to reveal that it was me who had helped them, but I knew that it would only complicate things further. I needed to prove to them, through my actions, that I was worthy of their trust and forgiveness. This act of kindness wasn't about seeking their approval, it was about easing their suffering and showing them that I cared. It was a way to demonstrate, in a tangible way, the values that Grandpa had instilled in me. It was a small step towards healing, a flicker of hope in the darkness. I hoped that, in time, it would pave the way for a deeper understanding and a genuine reconciliation. The turning point came unexpectedly. Amy, who had been avoiding our parents, visited them after hearing about their good fortune. She was curious, wanting to understand how they could have suddenly been relieved of their financial burdens. My parents, still unaware of my involvement, shared the story of the anonymous benefactor, their voices filled with awe and gratitude. They described the profound impact this act of kindness had on their lives, how it had lifted a weight they had been carrying for years. Amy listened intently, her expression softening as she absorbed their words. She began to question her own assumptions about me, wondering if I was truly the selfish, manipulative person she had imagined. Could I be capable of such selfless generosity? She knew about my plans to start a literacy foundation, but she had dismissed it as a self-serving attempt to gain approval. But this anonymous act of kindness, this quiet gesture of goodwill, seemed to contradict her preconceived notions. It forced her to reconsider everything she thought she knew about me, to question the validity of her anger and resentment. A seed of doubt had been planted, a glimmer of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, I wasn't the villain in her story. The ice around her heart began to thaw, ever so slightly. A few weeks later, Amy called me. Her voice was hesitant, almost timid. "Jessica," she said softly, "can we talk?" I immediately agreed, my heart filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. We met at a small cafe, the same one we used to frequent as children. As we sat down, I could see the vulnerability in her eyes, the cracks in her carefully constructed facade. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "About everything. About Grandpa, about the inheritance, about us." She confessed that she had been wrong to judge me, that her anger had blinded her to the truth. She admitted that she had always felt pressured to be perfect, to earn our parents' approval, and that she had resented me for seemingly effortlessly receiving Grandpa's love and support. I listened patiently, offering her my empathy and understanding. I shared my own feelings of being overshadowed, of feeling like my passions were less valued. I told her about the guilt I had been carrying, the burden of the inheritance, and my desire to use it to make a positive impact. We talked for hours, sharing our deepest fears and insecurities, addressing the past hurts and misunderstandings that had fueled our rivalry. It was a raw, honest, and vulnerable conversation, one that finally allowed us to see each other, not as competitors, but as sisters. From that day forward, Amy and I began to rebuild our relationship, brick by brick. We started by spending more time together, reminiscing about our childhood memories, laughing about silly things, and supporting each other through life's challenges. We learned to appreciate each other's strengths and to accept each other's flaws. We found common ground in our shared values, our love for our family, and our desire to make a positive impact on the world. Amy, with her business acumen and marketing expertise, offered to help me manage the Literacy Foundation, lending her skills to a cause she now genuinely believed in. We also started to communicate more openly and honestly, expressing our feelings without fear of judgment or reprisal. We learned to listen to each other, to validate each other's experiences, and to offer each other unconditional love and support. The inheritance, which had initially threatened to destroy our relationship, ultimately became a catalyst for growth and understanding. It forced us to confront our past hurts, to challenge our assumptions, and to rediscover the bond that had always connected us. The journey wasn't easy, but it was worth it. We emerged stronger, more resilient, and more deeply connected than ever before. We were sisters, and nothing could ever change that. It took longer for my parents to come around, but eventually, they too began to see things differently. Witnessing Amy's transformation, seeing her work alongside me to support the Literacy Foundation, and observing the positive impact the foundation was having on the community, they started to question their own biases. They saw my dedication, my passion, and my genuine desire to make a difference. They realized that success wasn't just about climbing the corporate ladder or accumulating wealth. It was about living a life of purpose and contributing to the greater good. One evening, they came to my apartment, their faces etched with remorse. "Jessica," my mother said, her voice trembling with emotion, "we're so sorry. We were wrong to judge you, to undervalue your passions. You've always had such a good heart, and we were too blind to see it." My father nodded in agreement, his eyes filled with tears. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart," he said. "You're honoring Grandpa's legacy and making a real difference in the world. We couldn't ask for anything more." Their acceptance was a balm to my soul, a validation of my choices and a testament to the power of forgiveness. The chasm that had separated us began to close, replaced by a newfound understanding and a deeper appreciation for one another. We were a family again, united by love, compassion, and a shared commitment to making the world a better place. Grandpa's actions, though initially disruptive, ultimately brought our family closer together. He had seen something in me that others had overlooked, a kindness and compassion that he believed could make a real difference in the world. He knew that money could be a powerful tool for good, but only if used wisely and with a generous heart. His decision to give me the inheritance, and to name me as the sole heir to his remaining fortune, wasn't about favoritism or control, it was about entrusting his legacy to someone he believed would honor his values. He knew that it would spark conflict, but he also believed that it would ultimately lead to growth and understanding. He taught us valuable lessons about love, forgiveness, and the true meaning of wealth. He showed us that family is more important than money, that resentment is a destructive force, and that forgiveness is the key to healing. He demonstrated that true wealth lies not in the accumulation of riches, but in the relationships we build, the contributions we make, and the lives we touch. His legacy wasn't just about money, it was about character, integrity, and a commitment to making the world a better place. And in the end, his actions helped us all become better versions of ourselves. Looking back, I realized that the inheritance, despite the initial chaos and conflict, was a transformative experience. It forced me to confront my own insecurities, to challenge my assumptions, and to step outside of my comfort zone. It taught me the importance of family, the power of forgiveness, and the true meaning of wealth. I am no longer just Jessica Miller, the quiet librarian. I am Jessica Miller, the reluctant heiress, the compassionate philanthropist, the devoted sister and daughter. I have embraced my new role and responsibilities, determined to honor Grandpa's legacy and to make a positive impact on the world. I still work at the library, finding joy in connecting people with stories and fostering a love of reading in children. But now, I also dedicate my time to managing the Literacy Foundation, working alongside Amy to provide educational resources and opportunities to those who need them most. The inheritance has given me the freedom to pursue my passions, to support causes I believe in, and to make a real difference in the lives of others. It has also given me the opportunity to grow as a person, to learn from my mistakes, and to become a better version of myself. My future is uncertain, but I am filled with hope, gratitude, and a deep sense of purpose. I am ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead, knowing that I have the love and support of my family by my side. My family's story is a testament to the complexities of family dynamics, the enduring power of love, and the transformative potential of forgiveness. It's a reminder that families are messy, complicated, and often flawed, but they are also the foundation upon which we build our lives. The inheritance was a catalyst, a spark that ignited long-buried resentments and exposed hidden truths. It threatened to tear us apart, to destroy the bonds that connected us. But through it all, love persisted. It may have been buried beneath layers of anger, disappointment, and insecurity, but it was always there, waiting to be rediscovered. Forgiveness was the key that unlocked our healing. It allowed us to let go of the past, to embrace the present, and to build a brighter future together. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. It required humility, empathy, and a willingness to see each other, not as enemies, but as flawed human beings, deserving of compassion and understanding. In the end, we learned that true wealth isn't about money, it's about the relationships we cherish, the values we uphold, and the contributions we make to the world. It's about leaving a legacy of love, kindness, and forgiveness. And that is a legacy worth more than any inheritance. Our family is not perfect, but it is ours, and we are stronger because of it. Thank you for spending your time with my story. Feel free to share your thoughts or reactions in the comments, I'd love to hear from you.